On any given Sunday in any given season, it all might come down to a great kick. In fact, a monster was boomed before the 2002 regular season even kicked off.
This is going to be a 65-yard attempt from Ola Kimmer. It's got the leg. It is good! 65 yards. If this were a regular season game, that would be the all-time record in NFL history. Ola Kimmer now on his way to the locker room to quickly edit the film and send it to every NFL team. That is phenomenal.
But not good enough to win Ola Kimmer a job. Instead, the Broncos kept veteran Jason Elam, who drilled this 55-yarder with 45 seconds left against Miami. But with 6 seconds left, Olindo Mare nailed one from 53 to win it.
He's gonna do it!
The only time in history 2 kickers made plus 50-yarders to decide a game in the final minute.
That is big stones, let me tell you.
But the 2 greatest kicks of the 2002 season came from Mike Vanderjagt back up in snowy Denver when he made a 54-yarder to tie it and another nearly as long to win it in overtime.
The Colts win! Oh, Vanderjagt hits from 54 and 52!
When it comes to kicking, no one knows more than Rick Gonzalez. Rick spent years poring over old newspapers and gathering data. The result was a detailed compilation of kicking stats dating all the way back to 1920.
You want to know how important a kicker is? Since 1970, 73 games have been won by NFL place kickers with no time left on the clock. On the other hand, since 1970, when both leagues merged, 96 games were lost on last-second kicks. So that how valuable these guys can perform under pressure, that says a lot.
So, just what is the greatest kick of all time? You could start out in Denver again with Jason Elam's record-tying 63-yarder.
63 yards!
But it was booted just before halftime and didn't even win the game. In fact, his own head coach almost forgot to give him the game ball.
I forgot something. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
No kidding.
We kind of forget about kickers most of the time. But what do you guys think? Tied the record, longest field goal in the history of the game, 63 yards.
Elam shares the record with Tom Dempsey, who was born with half a foot. Unlike Elam's kick, Dempsey's won the game. But most amazing of all was that he had to kick it from his own 37.
Here's the snap, the ball is down. Dempsey kicks, it's on the way.
Of course, back in 1970, the crossbar sat right above the goal line.
It's good. The Saints have won. The stadium is wild. Dempsey is being mobbed.
To me, that was the greatest kick because of the man, what he had to prove to come into the National Football League, the last seconds of the game, and he just did it.
Now, others would argue that the greatest kick in history came in the last game of the 1958 regular season. Pat Summerall was New York's kicker, and a win would force a playoff. After a Giants drive stalled, Summerall was asked to kick a career-long field goal, much to the dismay of New York's offensive coordinator.
Vince Lombardi was dead set against the kick, and he made that clear. And he and Jim Lee Howell actually got into a rather heated argument on the sideline, and Howell just made it clear, we're going for the kick.
Charlie Connolly was my holder, and when I got in the huddle and bent over, he asked me, what the hell are you doing in here? And that's another good way to build confidence, I guess. I said, they told me to kick it. So he said, you're kidding? I said, no.
It's cold, it's dark, it's wet, and the ball is 49 yards out. Summerall kicks. It's good. The season's longest field goal. The Giants pummel Summerall. The crowd is wild with excitement.
Lombardi grabbed me and hugged me. I thought he was going to say congratulations or something, although that wasn't Vince's style. And he said, you know, you son of a bitch, you can't kick it that far.
I was 17 years old, and I was sitting in the right field bleachers in Yankee Stadium. So I was there in person for that kick. It was a tremendous kick.
Bill Parcells has been there for many huge kicks, made and missed. If Scott Norwood's 47-yarder had been a few more feet to the left, Parcells and his Giants wouldn't have won their second Super Bowl. And the Giants wouldn't have even been there if Matt Barr hadn't connected a week earlier on the road against the back-to-back world champion 49ers.
And he'd missed one, so he was 5 or 6 that day. You don't get any more pressure than Barr had on him.
Giants are trailing by a point. All depends on Matt Barr.
On the last play of the game, Barr was 42 yards away from a trip to the Super Bowl.
Kick is away. It's got the distance. It is good. Good.
And the Giants are going to Tampa Bay. It's over for the three-peats. It's over.
Ever had any moment like this in your life?
Feels pretty good.
3 years later in New England, Parcells released Barr in favor of an undrafted free agent named Adam Vinatieri. Notoriously hard on kickers, Parcells immediately went to work to toughen the kid up.
You know, he'd go and stand in my way when I was getting ready to kick, knowing that he was right in my path from my approach, or he'd make his shadow in it, or he'd go and move the ground right where I was about ready to kick, just to try to get in your head a little bit.
The Tuna's tricks backfired. In his second game, Vinatieri was 0 for 3. The next week, he missed 2 more. Then, an extra point a week later. The accuracy would come. The toughness was always there.
My rookie year, we were playing Dallas, and I kicked it off, and Herschel Walker caught it and was running it back down the sideline, and I really didn't have an angle, and maybe he was slowing down because he thought he had a touchdown, but I ended up catching him and tackling him about our 20-yard line. And I remember talking about Bill Parcells. He said, you know, you're more than a kicker to this team now. You're an actual football player.
From that point on, it was a smooth ride. Not so for George Custer back in 1876. Just before riding out to his last stand, the general decided to take only his bugler and left his band leader behind. Now that band leader was none other than Felix Vinatieri, Adam's great-great-grandfather. So while Custer was surrounded by the Sioux, Felix was safe back at Fort Lincoln. Good thing. Otherwise, Adam may never have been born.
I don't know if he had his kids prior to or not, but the fact that he stayed back when they went to their last stand, I'm pretty happy about that.
125 years after that hot summer day, a winter's snow fell on Foxborough. And just like Custer, the Patriots were desperate, nearly out of shots and out of hope. History would be made again. But this time, a Vinatieri would be front and center.
Adam Vinatieri will attempt a 45-yard field goal to try to tie it.
Could you see the goalpost through the snow?
Yeah, I knew where they were at. I could see them, but at that point, it was my whole thought process was, you know, three steps. First of all, don't fall down. If you fall down, you slip and fall. The ball's not going to get up in the air. You're going to end up hitting one of your linemen in the back and game over. Obviously, their rush wasn't going to be real good, but I had to get it at least over the line of scrimmage. And then the third thing was make sure it goes straight enough.
But right as that situation came up, I'm trying to move the snow away so that I have a place to put the ball, but at the same time, the Raiders guys are kicking snow back on my spot I'm just clearing, so it was a big ordeal going on.
I said, Adam, wherever I catch this thing, I'm putting it down. If I get the laces anywhere, if they're at 6 o'clock, I'll move them a little bit so I get them off your foot, because I'm not going to try to spin them and spin the wet or cold ball out of my hand.
I didn't hear anything besides my holder, you know, just looking at me saying, hey, you ready to go? Let's do this thing. And at that point, I give him a nod, and everything happens quick.
45-yard field goal attempt coming up. Snap, ball down, kick up on the way.
And I just saw the ball traveling, and it was carrying pretty good, and I said, this thing might have a chance.
It is good! It is good! 45 yards! Adam Vinatieri kicks it through the snow, and we're tied at 13.
Greatest kick in history, undisputed. Vinatieri, unbelievable kick.
I want to say the kick of the century. I mean, to me, it involves conditions, it involves the stakes, and the distance.
Under those conditions, that distance, I think that was the greatest kick I've ever seen.
The game winner in overtime was into the wind, but Adam was only 23 yards away.
Ball down, kick is up.
Just took off running because I felt, you know, I could see the ball go in. And I just jumped in the snow and just started freaking out.
2 weeks later, Vinatieri found himself living every kicker's dream. the chance to win the Super Bowl on a long kick as time runs out. In his NFL career, he had never missed indoors. Perfect in domes and perfectly confident, he was 48 yards away.
It's kind of like Christmas when you're 5 years old kind of thing, you know. You can't wait till it happens. But at that point when I got out there, I really truly did just go out there and say, Adam, you've done it 1,000 times. Do it one more time. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff. You got plenty of leg. Hit it, get it up, get it down the middle, and it will go.
Set to go, snap ball down, kick up, kick is on the way, and it is good! It's good! It's good! Adam Vinatieri booms a 48-yard field goal, and the game is over!
I started crying. It's my first championship of any sport, and I'm running down the middle of the field, going to the end zone to make my little turf angel say hi to my parents and start collecting some confetti.
You know, I had to go chase Adam to try to get on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. You know, he always likes to leave me out and go running, so I said, man, you're going to stay there, and I'm going to jump on your back.
And Ken Walter kind of half tackled me from behind and started grabbing me and shaking me and just screaming at me. And, you know, it's funny.
What was he screaming at you? We won the Super Bowl, we won this.
A little bit more aggressive than that, but yeah, pretty much.
You know, I said, we're world champs, we're world, and I said it probably 10 times.
The Patriots are Super Bowl champions!
Which to you was the more pressure-packed kick? The 45-yarder in the snow or the final kick in the Super Bowl?
I think the 45-yarder in the snow because of the conditions of the field, the conditions of the weather, the situation of the kick. You miss it, you lose. I mean, cut and dry. Not to say that there's not a pretty pressured kick in the Super Bowl, but I think the one in the snow was maybe a little bit more difficult.
Foxborough Stadium is gone. It's now Gillette Stadium's parking lot. But a plaque has been erected there commemorating that almost surreal game-tying kick in the blizzard. And the exact spot is marked where Ken Walter placed the ball and Adam Vinatieri made the greatest kick in NFL history.